Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another yellow version solo challenge. It's been a little while, and I'll get into that a little bit more later, but I'm so glad you're here. I'm Droozee, and in this run, we're going to be using a fire type for the first time in this series with Rapidash. Rapidash is a really cool Pokemon for a Gen 1 run because its high speed means we should be able to get a lot of crits. It really doesn't have any glaring weaknesses, and it has pretty good balance between being a physical and special attacker, so we should have some good flexibility in how we approach this run. One major challenge we will face is our typing though, and this is going to make the run much more challenging, especially in the early game, with Brock and Misty both resisting our fire attacks. This means we may be off to a bit of a slow start, and the Elite Four also will be pretty scary, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And we're going to go ahead and get started on this run as we face our rival in the lab battle. As always, we're going to go Eevee-lution, and that is going to be the water type Vaporeon this time. This means we're going to have to throw this lab fight, which is pretty easy because we have Tail Whip in our initial moveset, and we're just going to spam Tail Whip and wait for the Eevee to knock us out. And with that done, our Pokemon journey will be underway. Because our rival really didn't want to attack, it took a little bit longer than normal, but we've now successfully lost the lab battle, and we can go run our early game errands. While we do that, let's take a look at the learn sets for Rapidash. The level up moves are pretty underwhelming. Rapidash and Ponyta aren't meant to be available this early in the game, so we won't learn any level up moves until level 30, and even then, it's a repeat of moves we start with. This first new move we actually learn is Fire Spin at 39, which could be really useful since it traps our opponent and prevents attacking in Gen 1. There might be a viable strategy to build around that, especially when we combine it with our final move, Agility, which will boost our speed, but more importantly, activate the famous badge boost glitch that exists in Gen 1. Not entirely sure what to think of the TM learn set. On one hand, we get Body Slam, which gives a strong physical attack, and Fire Blast could be a great move, even though it isn't 100% accurate. But there really isn't great type coverage here. That is one major weakness of fire types in Gen 1, as our only attacks are going to be fire and normal moves for the entire run. You can imagine this makes certain Pokemon types, like, I don't know, rock types, very challenging to deal with. So yeah, starting against the rock gym leader is not an ideal start. To try to do some scouting, I battle Brock to see how far we are from realistically standing a chance here, and even a critical hit from Ember isn't dealing a lot of damage, so this clearly won't end well. The point of this battle was never to win, but rather to see what the best way to approach this fight against Brock would be. Geodude has poor special, so I wanted to see how our Ember did against it, and even though we end up losing, it's still good to have that information. In the next battle, we're going to try an entirely different approach. This time, we're going to use Stomp to see if it could be more efficient when combined with our Tail Whip and Growl. It clearly isn't as effective, so we will be relying on Ember to carry us through the fight. This is just a sneak peek into the way I usually approach these gym battles if there isn't a clear strategy that's going to be effective, so I hope you enjoyed that bit. After some much needed training against the bugs and bug catchers in Viridian Forest, we're coming back against Brock, this time at level 10. We start off with a couple of growls to lower the damage we take from Geodude's tackles, and then we switch into Ember. Crits will be very helpful, and the 10% chance to burn and force a full heal would be very nice to have, but we don't really need it. We're able to take Brock's first rock type down, and we've lost about half the health in our process. I go for Ember against Onix to see how it does, and it does surprisingly good damage. Even though we did get a crit, we got the burn, and we get a couple of them before we get caught in a bind. Those burns really help because it just prevents us from taking much damage from the Onix. Onix then helps us out quite a bit by deciding not to attack or use Bide until the very end, and that's enough to get a win. That really wasn't that bad overall. It was a bit painful and it could have gone much worse, and I'm sure the upcoming Misty battle will be much worse than that. But all in all, I'll take that. I mean, we were only at level 10 when we came into that battle, which is pretty good for a fire type against Brock. On our way to Cerulean, we make our customary stop into the Mount Moon Pokemon Center to see a man about a fish and take advantage of the best deal in the entire game. We store the fish securely in our computer as any normal person would do and then continue on our journey. I think it's pretty easy to guess that we're not going to face Misty straight away here. Water types with good AI are going to absolutely wreck our Rapidash. So we're going to make our way north of town to take on rival number 2 and the trainers heading to Bill's house first. I think after that we'll probably need to go to the SS Hand before we have a chance to beat Misty, but we'll have to see when we come to that. First up though is Rival 2, and Rival 2 isn't much of a problem for us. Spearow's out first, and after a failed Leer, it only gets off a single Fury attack as 3 Embers take it down. It's really annoying we don't get a better fire move than this until Fire Blast, because Flamethrower would be so nice on Rapidash, but it's not too big of a problem in the early game. Sandshrew also is no problem, and we do avoid any attacks thanks to 2 crits and a flinch from our Stomp. Rattata out next, and it does surprisingly good damage with 2 quick attacks, but we are able to take it out even though we are almost in red health heading into Eevee. Our health doesn't end up mattering though, because we get a critical hit Stomp plus a flinch on our first attack, allowing us to finish off his starter and claim the victory on the next turn. That battle was closer than I expected. We weren't even at a type disadvantage and we struggled a bit, so I'm not wanting to face Misty right now at all. With that said though, I can't resist the chance to see how close we are to beating her, so on our first attempt against Misty, we rely on Stomp and Staryu goes as well as possible when Misty uses X-Defend, and that means we took no damage as we took the Staryu out over 2 turns. Starmie's in, and it outspeeds us and does 49 damage with Bubble Beam, not a great sign for us. Stomp looks to be about a 4-hit KO, clearly not gonna be enough. Like I said, Misty is just gonna be really strong, and right now we're not gonna stand a chance there. Time to head to Vermilion City, and before we get to the SSN, we're gonna stop into the Pokemon fan club for an awkward exchange with the chairman, who goes on about how great Rapidash is like we don't already have one. For once, we actually could add something to that conversation, but no, this guy dominated the conversation for the whole thing. At least we got a voucher for a priceless bike out of the deal, and we can now take our Rapidash, which is way cooler than his Rapidash anyway, to the SSN. We're also going to pick up the TM for Body Slam before making our way to Rival 3. As always, this is a great move because it's so strong and can cause paralysis. We're also going to stop in and grab the rare candy before making our way to Rival number 3. This battle is usually pretty easy, but after battle number 2, I'm not sure this will be smooth sailing. Because we're on a ship, clearly stand-up isn't my strength, so I'll stick to making Pokemon videos and not quit my day job. Spearow's out first, and a single Stomp takes it out, and the same goes for our rival's Rattata. And now Sandshrew out next. It survives Stomp, hits us with a Slash, but it doesn't do too much damage, and we take it out on the next turn. Eevee's out last, and Stomp does big damage, but Growl lowers our attack, so we switch to Ember, which isn't a great move, and it takes 2 more turns to finish the job. But we got an easy win against our rival. Probably more importantly, we leveled up to level 24, so we're a bit stronger for our battle against Misty. After we help the Seasick Captain to get cut, we make our way back to Cerulean City, and I don't know how this will go, but I'm hoping it works out. Staryu's out first, we outspeed, and Stomp doesn't quite take it out, but Water Gun isn't too strong, and we're heading into Starmie with pretty good amount of health. Now, we outspeed the Starfish, and Stomp crits and gets a flinch, so we are doing amazing, and things are now academic as we finish it off with one more Stomp, and that made for a really simple Misty battle. I will say I wasn't expecting it to go that way, and that was really easy, but at the same time, we did have basically a perfect battle there. With Misty defeated, we can now pop down to Vermilion City to try our 3rd gym badge. So after rummaging through trash, we're now ready to battle Surge. We are a bit underleveled compared to his Raichu, but I think we should still have a chance because we've taught Body Slam. However, Mega Punch goes for a crit and he outsped, so that was not a great start, but we got a crit from Body Slam. And then Surge did Gen 1 AI things and used an X speed even though he already outsped us, allowing us to finish off his Raichu for the easy win. Gen 1 AI is so weird sometimes, and I absolutely love it. With our 3rd badge in hand, we can make our way through Rock Tunnel, and unlike many of the recent challenges we've been doing, the Exploding Hiker might be worth taking a look at here. We aren't too overleveled right now, and we're not bulky, so things get interesting. Ember's our best bet, but it's still a 3-hit KO, so it gives plenty of time for the Hiker to self-destruct and do massive damage to Rapidash. This is our first attempt, and Rock Throw took us to red health as we made it to Graveler. It missed, we brought it to red health with Ember, but then a self-destruct finishes us off, and even though we technically won, we don't because of the rules, so we're gonna have to take the L and we're gonna try it again here. In the rematch, we do get a really good start with Geodude number 1 not attacking us, and we're moving on to the 2nd Geodude with full health. Thanks to a Gen 1 miss against the 2nd Geodude, we're going to take 4 turns to get the knockout instead of 3, and this is important because it gave the Geodude a chance to hit us with a Rock Throw that otherwise wouldn't have happened. That means Graveler's out again, and this time it goes for a first turn self-destruct, and we survive with 3 HP. Never in doubt, right? With the hiker defeated, we can now finish the cave and make our way to Celadon City, where we can stop and get a drink for the guards and today get some high quality H2O before we decide to move on and take out Erica instead of our normal pathing through the Rocket Game Corner. If we can clear both Erica's gym and the Rocket Game Corner at the same time, we can dig straight back to Lavender Town, which is the last place we healed. It might save us a little bit of time. Tangela is out first, and it can't really do too much damage to us. And the biggest thing it can do is Constrict, which will lower our speed, but that gives us a badge boost, which means that we're going to switch to Body Slam, which does more damage, and then immediately forget that as Weepinbell comes in and switch right back to Ember. It takes 3 turns to whittle this thing down with Ember, but eventually we're able to take it out and move on to the Gloom. Gloom's out and we're sticking with Ember, but unfortunately we get hit by a critical acid and we go down. In our second round, we find out that Ember is indeed the better way to go against Tangela, unless we have some badge boosts established. So it's trapped us in a couple of binds, but really we're not too worse for wear as we head on into Weepinbell. This time I do go for Body Slam, and the great thing about Body Slam is that it can paralyze, and we get one here, saving us some damage from the Weepinbell, making our way back to the Gloom. I go for Body Slam again, and it's doing pretty good damage, so we can avoid a critical acid, which would have finished us off if it had been critical, and use Ember to take down the Smelly Flower and earn our Rainbow Badge. That was a lot more difficult than I would expect it to be for a fire type, but we really don't have any fire moves, so I guess it does make sense. With Erica defeated, we can head straight to the game corner to celebrate our victory by ridding the city of an organized crime syndicate. You know, as you do when you're an 11-year-old kid in Kanto. We clear the hideout and make our way to Giovanni for the first time. His rock types could be a problem, but they aren't too strong right now, so I think we'll get by pretty easily. I start with a Body Slam, hoping to get paralysis on Onyx. Fortunately, Rock Throw has terrible accuracy and Giovanni loves guard spec, so we've avoided any damage from Onyx, and we head into Rhyhorn. Rhyhorn hits us with a horn attack and eventually goes for another guard spec because it's Giovanni after all, and we're just heading into orange health as we head into the Persian. Persian gets Body Slammed to about half health, we get hit with a Screech, and that's going to be enough for us to take out Persian with a critical stomp, giving us the win. We can now grab the Sylph Scope and dig our way right back to Lavender Town. It's nice when a plan comes together. After a quick heal at the Pokemon Center, we're going to make our way to Pokemon Tower to face rival number 4. I'm not expecting too much of a challenge here, but I guess you never know. Vera is out first, and I'm really not sure what to do. Mirror Move has me nervous to go for Body Slam, but I go for it anyway. It doesn't knock it out, and then it does huge damage when it crits coming back, which is worst case scenario. Not a great start, but we do finish the bird off on the next turn. Vulpix hits us with a very weak quick attack, but a critical Body Slam takes out the Firefox. Magnemite's out next, and another critical hit Body Slam takes it out, and the same thing happens for Sandshrew with 3 straight critical hit Body Slams taking it out. Eevee hits us with a weak quick attack, and then we don't get the crit, but we do get one on the second turn. That takes out Eevee, and that battle started very poorly, but Rapidash recovered really well. That speed impacting the base critical hit chance really showed off there. After clearing the tower, we can either head to Fuchsia or Saffron next, and both are not going to be great options right now. I trained up a little bit on Koga's gym trainers, and then headed to face Rival Fivel, who's usually pretty tough, and in this case is an absolute wall, and we can't even get past Sandslash without massive problems. We are eventually able to take down the Sandslash, but we have 33 health left, and we've had some accuracy drops, so this clearly isn't going to go well. It also doesn't help that I forget that Steel typing doesn't exist in Gen 1, going for Ember on the Magneton. Clearly Rival Fivel seems to be a bit out of reach at this point, so we're going to make our way back to Koga, and we're really close to learning Fire Spin, so I decide to use one of our rare candies to test if this will give us the edge we need to beat the Poison Master. When Fire Spin is super effective, it gives a very strong option, and it prevents anyone from attacking us, and that is really nice because we have now made it through the first Venonat without taking any damage. The downside though is that it isn't 100% accurate, and it can really be a pain. When it does hit though, and especially if we get a crit, we do massive damage when we have that super effective damage to a Venonat. However, a couple Fire Spin misses in a row, getting hit with Toxic really sets this up to be a rough battle moving forward. We're going to have to be much more aggressive here, and it doesn't bode well for us, as we do knock out the third Venonat. With Toxic building, we're going to need some help for Venomoth. The Moth is substantially more bulky though, and even though our Fire Spin does connect, it's going to take about 7 turns, and we don't have enough health, and Toxic finishes us off. I tried a couple more times starting at level 39, but it just wasn't working, and we'd get hit with Toxic at some point, and then we wouldn't have enough health to survive. So I did use one more rare candy to get to level 40, and it did make quite a bit of difference, as you're seeing here. As long as we avoid taking Toxic, we were in a pretty good place. When we did miss, we got hit by Psychic like you just saw, or Koga decided to use an X attack, which gave us enough chances to work through all of his Venonats and make it to Venomoth without getting Toxic. With Venomoth coming out, we hit a Fire Spin on our first turn, and it lasts the full 5 turns, which is strong enough to take it under half health. I go for an Ember, being a little bit more aggressive. It goes for Toxic, and while we did get hit with Toxic, we're able to finish it off before it does any damage to us, earning us our 5th gym badge. Importantly, this also opens up Cinnabar Island, and I'm going to decide to head there to take on Blaine straight away. It's probably going to be a tough battle, but his special boost would be very helpful with our rival battle, and he's probably going to be easier than our rival right now. We're underleveled, but we still outspeed, and we got a paralysis on Ninetales with our body slam right away. However, we do get confused. We're able to avoid taking any damage as we take out Ninetales and move on to Rapidash. Our body slam gets a crit and a paralysis on the first turn, which is awesome, but we don't quite take it out, allowing it to take us to 29 health before Arcanine comes out. We're able to paralyze the Fire Dog with our body slam, but it doesn't end up mattering as it takes us down with a takedown on the next turn. That went much better than I was expecting though, and I think the paralysis made a huge difference there. It turns out our first run was definitely the best. We would usually clear Ninetales pretty well, but Rapidash would do so much damage with takedown. And then I got this run where Ninetales took us out with a critical hit from over half with its flamethrower, and I decided we needed to try something different. After a few more rare candies, we're coming in at this attempt at level 44. We got a critical hit body slam to start us off, but then Blaine decides to be super annoying as we work through confusion, and we end up doing exactly 50 damage 3 times in a row as he wastes super potions on us. Rapidash comes out, and this time instead of takedown, it goes for Fire Spin, and that allows us to have much more health going into the Arcanine. It hits with a Fire Blast, and it crits and does so much damage. We do get a crit and a paralysis, but a critical hit flamethrower is enough to finish us off. I decided it might take one more rare candy, and that should get us over the hump and try the battle again. We start off with the paralysis, and that is perfect so we avoid any damage from Ninetales. We get a critical hit paralysis against Rapidash as well, and it misses a Growl, which was 25% chance to happen in Gen 1, as we move on to Arcanine with full health. It uses takedown, and it does so much damage, and it gets us down to 14 health, but because of that recoil damage, it made it possible to take it out with one more body slam, and we have now gotten our Volcano badge. We now also get Fire Blast, which is super powerful move and will probably replace Ember at some point. But that sacrifice for accuracy could be super painful to deal with. Now that we're back at Rival 5-ul, we're going to decide to test out the new move. Will Fire Blast and a few extra levels be enough to take him down? Well, we won't find out yet Sand Slash, as it's able to get off a sand attack, so annoyingly our accuracy is down for the rest of the fight. A crit from Body Slam finishes off the Sand Slash before it can make any accuracy issues even worse than they already are. Magneton is out, and I can't seem to forget that Steel typing doesn't exist yet, and decide Fire Blast is the best path even with our accuracy lowered, and you can see that clearly isn't the best path. Our misses have allowed us to get confused and paralyzed, and eventually we do get a one-shot with Fire Blast, but we are in red health and in very bad shape. Ninetales is out, and we are able to finish off Ninetales before Kadabra comes out, and then we get a Body Slam to take it out as well. Somehow we've made it all the way to Vaporeon, but the Water Dog outspeeds thanks to Paralysis and quickly finishes us off. It took 3 more attempts, but eventually we got this battle. It starts the same as the previous 2 I didn't show, but the key to a good battle here is twofold. First, not getting hit with Sand Attack, and the second is not using Fire Blast, because the extra power really isn't necessary and the accuracy drop just isn't worth it right here. I really wish Flamethrower was an option right now because it would make things so much easier. Really, it would just make a few more Pokemon consistent one-shots, but Body Slam is amazing and makes short work of most of our rivals' team, and we've made it back to Vaporeon without taking much damage at all. Now we need to avoid a critical hit from Water Gun because that's how we lost the last 2 battles I didn't show. Fortunately, our first Body Slam paralyzes, and while we don't get full paralysis, Vaporeon didn't get the crit it needed on either of the 2 attempts, and that gives us enough power to knock out rival number 5's last Pokemon and get the win. While it was a win, this doesn't have me feeling very good. We struggled when our rival's Vaporeon's best move was a weak 40 base power Water Gun. Hydro Pump has me absolutely terrified that only a miss will get us by when we get to the champion. But that's a problem for future Droozee because right now we've got a crime boss to defeat and a huge company to save. Nidorino isn't a problem thanks to the potent combination of Body Slam and Giovanni's affinity for Guard Spec. Persian goes down quickly as well, but it did get off a growl to lower our attack, which does make things a little bit annoying moving forward. It's okay though because we're using Ember, and surprisingly Giovanni doesn't use Guard Spec as we take the Rhyhorn out over 3 turns. Nidoqueen's out, and I'm going for Body Slam here, hoping for paralysis that never comes, but we end up not needing it, as we end up taking out the Nidoqueen without taking too much damage, ending in orange health, leveling up in the process, and allowing us to now move on and face the Psychic Gym Leader Sabrina. This will be interesting because we likely have a speed advantage, and Body Slam should do huge damage, and you see it does against Abra. Kadabra's out next, and it almost one-shots, but we pay the price with the critical hit Psychic, which one-shots us from full health, and we're gonna have to try this one again. Abra is obviously still a one-shot, but we need to find out if Kadabra was a damage range or if it's going to hang on consistently. We find out that it was a damage range, and we finish it off with a single Body Slam. We do huge damage to Alakazam as well, and then an X-Defend allows us to finish it off on a second turn with another Body Slam, and we beat Sabrina without taking any damage. It's so crazy how much difference a damage roll can make in how a battle turns out. It does make things interesting, and it's one of the reasons why these runs are so much fun to put together. Before we leave the gym, we throw away Sabrina's trash Psywave TM and then head out on our way. With all other 7 badges in our possession, we can now head back to Viridian City and take on Giovanni for the 3rd and final time. I've taught Mimic to our Rapidash ahead of this battle, and we're trying to use it to take Earthquake and use it against Giovanni, but a critical Earthquake is enough to take us down, and that's the end of our first attempt. So maybe if we don't get a crit, we'll do a little bit better. On our second attempt, we see that without a crit, it still takes us to orange health, and we are not in a great place as we don't get a knockout, and that ends the second attempt, so we're going to need some levels to make this work. But because I'm stubborn, I want to exhaust all options before taking that extra time to train. We get a paralysis this time by leading with Body Slam, Mimic Earthquake, and Giovanni uses Guard Spec like he loves to do, and that brings out Persian for the first time. We're going to go for Body Slam on the cat, and we get a crit, and it uses Screech, so we're in a great place as we end up taking it out to move on to the Nidoqueen. We can now use our Earthquake, but it doesn't quite do enough to take it out, and a critical hit Earthquake finishes us off. Since we've already used a few rare candies this run, I want to avoid using more if we can, and I'd also love to get some extra attack stat experience if possible. So I head to the Fighting Dojo and clear the gym, which gives us enough experience to gain another level. With the dojo cleared, we choose to let them keep both of their prized Pokemon. They clearly need them more than we do, so let's head back to Viridian City and try our luck with Giovanni again with a new trick up our sleeve. Trick is Agility. We can now use 4 rare candies to get to level 55, and this is important because we can learn Agility as a way to set up our badge boosts. The strategy here is largely the same as before, Mimic Earthquake and try to avoid taking too much damage. Once we knock out the Dugtrio, we need to set up against Persian, which is easier said than done. We need it to avoid attacking us and get our 3 agilities in, and it doesn't quite work out on our first attempt. It took 3 more tries to get this battle, where Dugtrio decides to go for Fissure instead of Earthquake, which allows us to get the KO and still have full health moving into the Persian. As we start to set up, Persian goes for a double team before hitting us with a massive slash for over half our health. I decide to abort the setup before it becomes another failed attempt, but Body Slam isn't a one-hit KO. Fortunately for us, the cat continued to use double team instead of finishing us off, so we've made it to the Nidoqueen. We now get to see if 2 agilities is enough for a knockout, and it is, which is fantastic. Nidoking's out next, and a critical hit Earthquake takes it down in one shot as well. Rhydon's last. It does hang on from our Earthquake, but Giovanni does Giovanni things, uses a guard spec, allowing us to defeat his Rhydon and earn the last badge. The yellow version Giovanni makes things so difficult for both fire and electric starters, so I'm just glad we were able to get by him relatively quickly. Now we have to turn our attention to a different challenge with Rival 6 and the Elite Four looming. Rival 6 could be challenging because Vaporeon now knows Hydro Pump, and that could end things very quickly. In our first battle against our rival, we use Body Slam on Sandslash, and it cooperates as much as can be expected with a couple of Swifts, and we take it down over the course of 3 turns. Execute's out next, and I go for an Agility, but pay for it by taking a Leech Seed. We go for Fire Spin, and it hits and crits, and it takes the eggs out over the next 2 turns to bring out Magneton next. Our first Body Slam paralyzes, and it misses a Supersonic, so we easily finish it off on the next turn. Things are going fairly well so far, and our rival sends out Ninetales. Another 2 Body Slams take down his Ninetales, and it only did a useless roar, so we're over half health heading to Kadabra. 1 Body Slam takes out the Kadabra, and we're on to Vaporeon. We start with a critical hit Body Slam, and then get hit with Hydro Pump, and that finishes us off. It's exactly what I was afraid would happen. This could be another tricky battle, and one thing that will help is that Sandslash isn't really set up to hurt us too much, so we can set up our agilities right away. It makes the 3-hit KO from Body Slam down to a 2-hit, so we're still in a good place heading into the Execute. It takes 2 chances, but we do land a Fire Spin, and that's enough to finish off the Execute, as it only went for Stun Spore, so we've avoided Leech Seed this battle as well. Magneton's out, and this time we're going to go for Fire Spin to do some chip damage to bring it into range for knockout with the Body Slam. It's a little bit riskier, but it also means that we avoid taking damage. With Ninetales out, we go straight to the Body Slam. It doesn't knock it out, but it uses Tail Whip, so we have Badge Boost activated. Kadabra's out now, and that's an easy one-shot. We already knew that one, and we're back to Vaporeon. This time we're going to use Fire Spin to try to do some chip damage, and after 2 rounds of very little damage with our Fire Spin, I get a little bit impatient, and I decide to go for Body Slam, and I chose poorly. It survives with red health, and it's able to extinguish us with a Hydro Pump. This is not inspiring confidence that Rapidash is going to do well against the Elite Four or the Champion now. It only gets harder, and we are struggling. A couple more attempts later, we get this battle. Sandslash is still the best place to set up here, but if it decides to use Slash, things get interesting really quickly. If we get poisoned by Poison Sting, it's basically guaranteed loss, but that doesn't happen here, thankfully. We finish off the Sandslash, Execute's out. Really nothing's changed over the next 4 members of his team as far as strategy goes. Fire Spin for chip damage until they're in range for a Body Slam to get a knockout, or go straight for the knockout with Body Slam when we're facing either Ninetales or Kadabra. These are all really consistent, so it's really only Vaporeon that causes us problems once we get past the Sandslash. And this time we've taken so much damage already that I decide to go for a Hail Mary, and we go for the Body Slam. We get paralysis, and it gets fully paralyzed, allowing us to take down the Vaporeon. We finish it off, and even though it was a bit lucky, we got the win, and we can now move on to the Victory Road and the Elite Four. And that's when we're going to probably face a lot of problems, because we can't rely on luck, because just like always, we won't be saving between Elite Four members. The first member is Lorelei, and I think this is going to be a big hurdle to clear. As I always like to do, I challenge the Elite Four at the level we arrive as a reference point to see how much additional training we're going to need, and I think you can all guess how this one's going to go. We start out with a Fire Spin against the Dugong, and it's doing very little damage. We switch into the Agilities as the Dugong uses Rest, and that allows us to be fully set up moving into the rest of the battle. Fire Spin still isn't doing much, its low base power is really showing here. We get hit with a Bubble Beam, and then put another Fire Spin on, and then we're going to eventually switch to Body Slam, and it doesn't quite do enough to knock it out, but luckily Lorelei uses Retroactive Super Potion, and we finish it off on the next turn. I misclick on an Agility on Cloyster, and that's enough to get us caught in a critical hit clamp, and that finishes us off. This is going to take quite a few levels to beat the Elite Four, but maybe not as many to get past Lorelei as I initially thought. After a bit of battling in Victory Road, we're coming into the rematch at level 63, 5 levels higher than last time. This time we're starting with Body Slam because we know Fire Spin isn't going to do a lot, and we're going to be able to set up our agilities for badge boosts while the Dugong sleeps just like before. Once our setup is in place, we can finish Dugong off with 2 Body Slams, although we did take a Bubble Beam between the 2, and now Cloyster's in. Because of Cloyster's high defense, we're going to use Fire Spin until we get the oversized clam into range for a Body Slam to finish it off. After a couple rounds of Fire Spin, the Cloyster is just in that perfect range, and we finish it off with a Body Slam to bring out Slowbro for the first time. Now, we can really take things to a different level as we mimic Amnesia, which is going to allow us to boost our special. We have a 50-50 chance that Slowbro will use Withdraw instead of Surf because of Lorelei's good AI, and we are hoping for Withdraw here. We can then use Amnesia to boost our special, which is really useful, mainly for the defensive side of things. And we are now able to defeat Slowbro after a few retroactive Super Potions by Lorelei drag out the battle a little longer than it needs to be. Unfortunately though, we are now in red health, and we level up, which negates our badge boosts. Jinx is frail, so Body Slam still takes it out as we head into Lapras. All of those special boosts we had though make Fire Spin a viable option, and it does great damage over 4 turns. Lorelei uses a Super Potion, but it's not enough as a Body Slam finishes off the Lapras, and we got our first win against Lorelei at level 64. I'm definitely surprised that we were able to make it past her at a fairly low level, and it by no means is consistent right now, but it is a big plus, and we may be able to train against the Elite Four instead of in Victory Road now. This will speed things up quite a bit for Rapidash, and thinking a little bit farther ahead, I highly doubt this attempt will get us through, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. Take Bruno being accepted into the Elite Four, for example. He will have advantages when he uses his Onix, but other than that, we aren't in too much danger. His entire team has such low special that even a weak move like Fire Spin does huge damage to the first Onix. The same goes for the Hitmons as well. We finish Hitmonchan off with a Body Slam, and that's going to bring out Hitmonlee, and Hitmonlee is also pretty frail overall, and a single Body Slam takes it out and brings us to Onix number 2. We miss our first Fire Spin, and Earthquake does really good damage to us as our Body Slam crits, and we get hit by a Slam and are in red health against Bruno. Luckily, Onix goes for Slam and misses, and we're able to finish it off with a Fire Spin to bring out Machamp. We are in a very precarious situation. I'm seriously worried about losing to Bruno until we get a critical hit with our Fire Spin, and we will take it down to about 40% health before our Body Slam is enough to finish it off and get us the win. Oh my goodness, that was intense though. That crit probably mattered because the 2 X-Defends Bruno used may have been enough to hold on otherwise. But we successfully avoided the embarrassing loss to Bruno, and that's all that matters. Most importantly, we can now move on to the next battle with Agatha. This one will be quite interesting because we can't rely on Body Slam like we have been up to this point. Trying this without Fire Blast, but it could be an option if we struggle. Right now, I'm kind of winging it, which is pretty much the Droozee way through the Elite Four for the first time in a solo challenge. Gengar number 1 sets up a substitute, and that's going to really slow this battle down quite a bit. We eventually break the substitute, and that lets us do a couple turns of damage on Agatha's Ghost before she brings in Golbat, and Body Slam is obviously our play here as it takes out the bat in 2 turns. Gengar number 1's back out, and we're going for Fire Spin yet again. It takes 2 rounds of Fire Spin, but that's enough to finish off the Gengar and move on to the Haunter. It's tempting to mimic Hypnosis here, but our Fire Spin is starting to run low on PP, so I'm hoping to save Mimic for Psychic from Gengar number 2. We miss a Fire Spin, and Haunter makes us pay as it begins to hit us with Sleep and Confusion repeatedly. Agatha loves trolling in these battles. If you're not able to sweep her team quickly, these battles get very frustrating, and when you're using less than 100% accurate moves, it gets very dicey very quickly. We eventually are able to bring the Haunter down to orange health, but Agatha uses a Super Potion, and that's just going to stall out our Fire Spin PP a little bit more, as she decides to do the same thing another time. We have 1 more PP of Fire Spin left, and we connect, and it takes the Haunter down very close, but it hangs on, and we now have no choice but to mimic a move from Haunter. Our only option here is to mimic Lick. It's not an ideal approach here, so I decide to set up 3 agilities to make Lick as viable as possible, and then decide to mimic Lick, and it finishes off the Haunter. Arbok is going to be coming out next, and that means we'll be able to use Body Slam here, and it gets the Arbok to red as we get caught in Wrap, and then Agatha uses Super Potion, but changes out to Gengar. Then Lick does huge damage, taking it into almost half health before we hit ourselves in Confusion and end our battle. That was so frustrating, but mainly because we had some unfortunate RNG, which is basically what Agatha battles turn into most of the time when you can't reliably knock out her team quickly. After a bit of training and a bit of investment into some vitamins, we make our way back to Agatha for a rematch. The first thing you'll notice is that we have very limited PP overall here, and that's because I'm using the Elite Four to train at this point. It's just the fastest way to train right now, and realistically getting through isn't likely right now. So for this battle, it means going in with Mimic on Lick early because it was surprisingly strong in our last attempt. After Mimic, we set up agilities and badge boosts to further strengthen our attacks. Unfortunately, during this time we did get paralyzed from a Lick, but we still outspeed thanks to all those agilities boosting speed, which is really nice. The main thing to note here is that even though Lick is a weak move, it's super effective against Ghosts, and the Ghastly line all have weak defense, and that combination leads to a very effective and consistent approach. We're able to make it all the way to Gengar number 2, who is now taking about a third of its health from a single Lick, and we're able to finish it off really quickly, even though we did get a crit at the end, and we're able to make our way past Agatha and onto Lance for the first time. That Agatha battle was much more consistent than before, but I don't know if it's consistent enough to make me feel comfortable. We're going to head right to Lance, and one of the things you'll notice is that I didn't heal before this battle. And that's because we're probably not going to match up well against this Gyarados. Are you ready for one of the least climactic Lance battles you've ever seen? Gyarados is out, leaves with Hydro Pump, and that's the battle. I hope you didn't blink because you'd miss it. The good news is though, we can now get to Lance. The bad news is, it will take an extraordinary amount of time to actually be competitive with the Dragon Master. You'll notice that on this next run through the Elite Four, I'm showing we are starting at level 76, which is a full 10 levels higher than we were in the first battle with Lance. To get these levels, I've been repeatedly facing the league and have yet to get past Lance. We can sometimes survive against the Gyarados, but the rest of his team is just as bad of a matchup for us, and we just can't hang with him at the lower levels. With these extra levels, the first 3 members of the league are now super consistent. Additionally, when you battle the same trainers again and again and again, you start to figure out what the best approach is to make each one as quick and painless as possible. I've gone ahead and sped things up to get straight to the Lance battle here, and we're going to be coming in with an almost 20 level advantage over most of his team, so hopefully things will go much better this time around. Gyarados is going to be out first, and we're going to lead with Body Slam, and we're going to end up getting a crit this time, and that is amazing, and it one-shots the Gyarados, a great way to start this battle. We level up from that, and I decide whether we should go on the attack or go for a setup here. I eventually decide to go for Body Slam, and Dragonair barely hangs on, hits us with a weak Thunderbolt, and then we finish it off on the next turn. Dragonair number 2's out, and we're going to Mimic Ice Beam. We get hit with a weak Bubble Beam here, even a crit didn't do too much damage, and then we switch to the attack with Ice Beam, which easily takes out Dragonair number 2, the Aerodactyl, and of course it's also going to finish out the 4 times weak Dragonite. All it took was getting by the Gyarados with enough health, and then that went pretty smoothly from there. This means we now get our first shot at the champion in this run, and I'm really worried about this one. We have a level advantage, but we're weak to his Sandslash's Earthquake and Vaporeon's Hydro Pump. We don't have a lot of options to play with though. I guess we could look into Fire Blast, but we're not going to be doing that quite yet. We also still have 2 rare candies. I'm going to go ahead and use them right now, just to give us a little bit of extra strength heading into our final rival battle. So with our preparation complete, let's cue the champion's theme music and see how this turns out. Sandslash is out first, and we're going to start out with Body Slam, and it crits and it takes it down to red health. It's a great start, but Earthquake from the Sandslash does over half our health and damage. That's not great. We do finish Sandslash off with another Body Slam, and do the same with Alakazam. Executor is out next, and I want to avoid Leech Seed here, so we're going to use Fire Spin, and it connects for the first time, and it lasts for 3 turns. After that, we go for Fire Spin again, and it connects again for another 3 turns, taking out the Walking Palm Tree. This is going to bring us into Ninetales. Ninetales is taken down to orange health by Body Slam, and then uses Tail Whip, so we've got badge boosts before we finish it off with another Body Slam. Magneton's out next, and a Body Slam does good damage and he gets paralysis, but a Thunderbolt does okay damage, and we finish it off on the next turn. We have just under a quarter of our health as we move to Vaporeon, and Body Slam gets a paralysis, but it doesn't get a full paralysis on Vaporeon, and Hydro Pump hits us, and that's enough to end that run. I thought we were going to sneak that one out, but it wasn't meant to be. The good thing is the rest of the Elite Four is pretty straightforward now thanks to all the extra levels and the strategy we've put together up to this point. So on the next attempt, we've made it back to Lance again without too much trouble. This time we're going for Body Slam, but we don't get the crit that we got last time, opening us to a Hydro Pump. And his Hydro Pump crits, and that takes us down from full health. Okay, so maybe Lance isn't 100% consistent at this point, but if we avoid that critical Hydro Pump, we should sweep the rest of his team. It means that we're also going to have to go back to the start of the Elite Four again, and we've seen the strategy in these battles, so I'm going to speed them up. While these battles play, I want to give a huge shout out to my wife, Mrs. Droozee, for the fantastic work around revamping the new background to these videos. If this is your first video from my channel that you're watching, trust me when I say they are a huge upgrade to what I was using before. I think they make the videos look a lot more fun, and really they make the video a lot more easy to watch from my perspective, so I hope it does for you as well. Let me know what you think of them in the comments below, and make sure to give a huge shout out to Mrs. Droozee. With Lance now defeated, we're back at the champion again for our second attempt. This time, we're only going to heal up and not use our rare candies, because I don't think those extra levels were really helping us too much. This may give Rapidash a better finishing level if we can get the victory. That is a big if though, as we play the champion's theme music once more and start the battle. Sandslash is out first, and we're going to go for Body Slam just like last time. This time, we don't get a crit, but we do get a paralysis. Unfortunately, it doesn't stick, and we still take big damage from an earthquake before we can finish it off. Alakazam is going to come out, and just like last time, a single Body Slam takes it down. Exeggutor is out next, and we go for Fire Spin again. This is going to last a full 5 turns, which is the best case we could do here, and it's going to end up taking the Exeggutor all the way down to red health. Unfortunately for us, our rival does have a full restore, and it got triggered. So we get to do it all over again. This time it takes 2 rounds of Fire Spin, going for 5 turns in total. But eventually we get it into range to finish it off with a Body Slam. Ninetales is out next, and we don't get a crit, so it hangs on and hits us with Confuse Ray, which isn't great, but we do avoid confusion and finish off the Fox on the next turn. We level up and Magneton comes in. I'm going for Fire Spin, hoping that we can avoid taking damage, but we miss and we get hit with a Screech. We go for Body Slam and it does great damage, and Swift doesn't do too much to us, and we're able to finish off Magneton and get back to Vaporeon on the next time. Moment of truth, we go for Body Slam, and it crits and it takes down our nemesis. That was clutch, and that means we've beaten our rival for the final time and earned our way into the Hall of Fame. What a cool run. Fire types generally struggle in these solo challenges, but I wasn't expecting it to be so profound once we hit the Elite Four. We were in a strange place where critical hits were, well, critical to winning. Luckily, they are fairly common thanks to Rapidash's high base speed. Outside of the need to train at the Elite Four, there weren't many large roadblocks. We leveled up at the last battle, finishing at level 79, and finish off with a time of 6 hours and 30 minutes. That's not a terrible time, but when we look at the tier list, it is clearly in the 3rd tier with Dugtrio and Droozee. In fact, Rapidash is going to come in right between them in the number 10 spot. It will be interesting to see how the rest of the fire Pokemon stack up when we get to them, because they are really at a bit of a disadvantage with their typing. And speaking of other Pokemon, it's time to bring in the wheel to see who will be our next solo challenge on the channel. Let's see who it'll be. It looks like it's going to be Weezing. Very interesting one here, as it will be the first time we have an evolution to compare our performance to. As it is a stronger Pokemon than Coughing, I think it's safe to say it will be faster, but how much remains to be seen. I promised a bit of an update on why this took so long, and that's because Mrs. Droozee and I just moved internationally, and there are a lot of other things that come with living in an entirely new place. I've been trying to work through some things offline, like the new video backgrounds, and hope to get back to a more regular upload schedule soon. Remember that if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and turn on notifications so you'll be notified when the newest videos come out. As always, if you have any ideas how to make these runs more entertaining, or if you just want to add some positivity to the world, drop it in the comments below. I hope you liked this video, and until next time, I'm Droozee, and I hope to see you all again soon.